the industry has this nasty habit of not asking what they're moving, right? It's a client wants me to move something. I don't want to know what it is because then I would have to maybe do something different or buy more insurance or take a different, approach to it that could be more costly. And they almost operate under the, hey, plausible deniability, right? We didn't know what it was. We're not responsible. You didn't tell us what it was type move.
Yeah.
I think in the old days, maybe that worked, right? Maybe there was less kind of knowledge out there. Let's go back to not pre-internet days, but if you go back to the mid to late 90s, it was just a different environment all the way around in terms of knowledge share and in terms of the legal environment, right? Nowadays, I think that you're almost asking for more problems by not inquiring what it is that you're moving, right? Especially in the medical space, because it has become so, as you know, I mean, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but the expansion of the medical courier space has been massive. Like you said, a cadaver, sure. Dirty needles, sure. Medicines, sure. Nuclear medicine, that's a new fun one. Everyone's grabbing with, right? And with all those come different exposures, different risks, different values, to us, a cadaver is worth X. To the family of the cadaver, it is worth far more than that. And you have those kinds of valuation issues that play into it. So yes, I think there's a lot of gray area in the space, and arming yourself with the knowledge of, okay, what is this and what's it worth? We were, as you did stuff for two very large national laboratories that we won't by name. Yeah. You would look at the insurance requirements from both of those that were basically drawn up by their legal teams. And I'm going to tell you, and I got into a discussion with a former client who went to the dark side and was in sales for, I should say, procurement logistics side for one of those labs. And I said, these requirements are crazy, right? And he said, yeah, I know, but legal wants it and that's all they're going to do. So we're going to have to just give it to them. Right. And the thing that always got me about Ken was it was the cargo limit of $1 million. Okay. Now, were they carrying anything worth $1 million? Not in actual value, physical value, I think. And this is one of the biggest disconnects in the medical courier space, especially. Right. It's not necessarily that the item you're carrying has a hard value of $1 million. It's the potential consequential loss of what happens if that item is destroyed or lost or damaged, that can have the impact of $1 million. And so what we would say is, hey, look, that's not a cargo claim. That's an errors and omissions claim. And I think that's the part of the medical courier space that gets lost on people, because it's not something that the labs and the healthcare systems are actually asking you to cover and carry coverage for. They just say cargo and think everything is going to be covered. I think that's the biggest misconception right now in the environment.
Sure. So what is the difference then between cargo and errors and omissions? What's the difference?
Yeah, when you look at cargo is going to say, look, you have a package. We're going to pay for the cost to repair, replace it. Okay. So they'll use the lesser of language, right? Because they don't want to spend more than they have to. So you take, for instance, the biopsy, right? Let's say we took a biopsy, or we took the entire mole, piece of whatever we thought was cancer potentially off of you. And now we need to have that delivered to a lab to be analyzed. It gets lost in transit or damaged, compromised.
Yep.
What's it worth? What's a piece of skin worth? Well, nothing really, right? However, we can't go back and take more of it. We already took the whole thing out. So what you have is a patient who's an interested third party, right, to the whole transaction. And now they don't know whether it was cancer. They don't know if it was not cancer, right? They have some buzzwords in our space, and the legal space are mental anguish and emotional distress. Yeah. And those are how the claim gets brought, right? Which is the patient saying, whoa, courier, you screwed up. I'm mad at you. I'm also mad at the hospital or the lab. I'm suing everybody, and I am traumatized by this, and plaintiff's counsel will trump it off, of course. But that's the exact exposure that the errors and omissions cover, right? Your cargo is going to say, what's the value of the goods? This is what we'll pay for to replace it. But again, you can't really attach much of a value to it. They will, right? But in the best case scenarios, when that happens, it's we lost part of what we took. We'll just have to get another biopsy. So it's a little bit of time and effort and energy to do that. But it's the emotional distress, mental anguish type claims that are falling under the errors and omissions. And what happened was, if you back up, 5, 6, 7 years maybe now, very intelligent, and I'll use that term loosely, plaintiffs' counsels figured out that they could double dip on that coverage or those claims by going after not only the errors and omissions policies, but also general liability policies. So what all the general liability insurers did was add language to clarify, hey, look, that's not what we're intending to cover. You got to go buy that coverage elsewhere. So, but there was a rash of claims where, instead of $1 million, they were getting $2 million, which obviously doesn't help where rates go for everybody as a whole.